Ronald Gene Simmons was born on July 15, 1940, in Chicago, Illinois, to Loretta and William Simmons. On January 31, 1943, William Simmons died of a stroke, and within a year, Simmons' mother had remarried, this time to William D. Griffin, a civil engineer for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. In 1946, the Corps moved Griffin to Little Rock, Arkansas, the first of several transfers that would take the family across central Arkansas over the next decade. On September 15, 1957, Simmons dropped out of school and joined the U.S. Navy and was first stationed at Naval Station Bremerton in Washington, where he met Bersabe Rebecca Becky Ulibarri, whom he married in New Mexico on July 9, 1960. Over the next 18 years, the couple had 7 children. In 1963, Simmons left the Navy and approximately 2 years later joined the U.S. Air Force. During his 20-year military career, Simmons was awarded a Bronze Star Medal in the Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross for his service as an airman and the Air Force Ribbon for excellent marksmanship. Simmons retired from the Air Force and military service on November 30, 1979, with the rank of Master Sergeant. On April 3, 1981, Simmons was being investigated by the Cloudcroft, New Mexico Department of Human Services for allegations that he had fathered a child with his 17-year-old daughter Sheila, whom he had been essaying. Fearing arrest, Simmons fled New Mexico in late 1981 with his family, first to Ward, Arkansas in Lonoke County, and then to Pope County near Dover, Arkansas in the summer of 1983. The family took up residence on a 13-acre tract of land 6.5 miles north of Dover that they would dub Mockingbird Hill. The residence was constructed of 2 older model mobile homes joined to form one large home, neither of which had a telephone nor indoor plumbing, and was surrounded by a makeshift privacy fence which was as high as 10 feet tall in some places. As a result of the home's lack of plumbing, Simmons ordered his family to dig 3 cesspits, one of which would eventually be where he disposed of some of their bodies. Simmons worked a string of low-paying jobs in the nearby town of Russellville, Arkansas. He quit a position as an accounts receivable clerk at Woodline Motor Freight after numerous reports of inappropriate sexual advances and went to work at a Sinclair Mini-Mart for approximately a year and a half before quitting on December 18, 1987. By the time of the killings, the number of people within the home reduced to 7, as 2 of the older children, Billy and Sheila, moved out, married, and had children of their own. Shortly prior to the Christmas season of 1987, Simmons made the horrific choice to take the lives of all his family members. On the morning of December 22, he initiated this gruesome act by using a crowbar to assault his wife Rebecca and his eldest son Gene, followed by using a .22 caliber pistol to fatally shoot them. Subsequently, he ended the life of his 3-year-old granddaughter Barbara through strangulation. Simmons then disposed of their lifeless bodies in one of the pits he had compelled his own children to dig earlier. Simmons patiently waited for his other children to return from school during the Christmas break. Upon their arrival, he informed them that he had gifts for each of them but wished to give them out one by one. Tragically, he proceeded to strangle and submerge his 17-year-old daughter Loretta, holding her under the water in a barrel. The 3 remaining children, Eddie, Marianne, and Becky, met a similar fate and were then placed into the pit as well. Around midday on December 26, the rest of the family arrived at the home as Simmons had invited them for the holidays. The first victims were Simmons' son Billy and his wife Renata, both fatally shot. He then strangled and drowned their 20-month-old son Trey. Additionally, Simmons shot and killed his eldest daughter Sheila, whom he had previously subjected to abuse, and her husband, Dennis McNulty. Continuing this appalling spree, Simmons strangled his own grandchild, 7-year-old Sylvia Gale, and finally took the life of his 21-month-old grandson Michael. After these distressing acts, Simmons meticulously arranged the bodies of his entire family in an orderly fashion in the living area. They were concealed with clothing. except for Sheila, who was draped with Rebecca Simmons's finest tablecloth. The bodies of Trey and Michael were encased in plastic wrapping and left in disused vehicles at the end of the driveway. Following these horrific events, Simmons proceeded to a Sears store in Russellville, where he collected Christmas gifts that he had previously ordered for his family. That evening, he visited a local bar for a drink before returning home, where he spent the remainder of the evening and the following day consuming beer and watching TV. On the morning of December 28, Simmons drove to a Walmart in Russellville, where he acquired an additional firearm for the impending attack he was planning. His initial objective was a law firm where he had previously crossed paths with Secretary Katie Cribbins Kendrick. Simmons had developed an intense infatuation with Kendrick, but she had turned down his advances. Upon entering the office, he proceeded to shoot and take Kendrick's life. His next destination was an office of an oil company, where he intended to harm the owner, Russell Rusty Taylor. Taylor also happened to be the owner of the Sinclair Mini-Mart, from which Simmons had recently resigned. He shot and injured Taylor and subsequently killed another individual in the building, James David Chaffin, who was the only person completely unknown to Simmons among the victims. Another employee in the building was targeted with a gunshot, but the bullet missed. Simmons then drove to the Sinclair Mini-Mart, where he shot and wounded 2 more individuals. His final destination was the office of the Woodline Motor Freight Company, where he shot his former supervisor twice, inflicting wounds. Following this, he ordered one of the employees at gunpoint to contact the police. When the authorities arrived, Simmons relinquished his weapon and surrendered without any resistance. Throughout the 40-minute-long spree, Simmons took the lives of 2 individuals and caused injuries to 4 others. Following his arrest, Simmons underwent a psychiatric assessment, during which he was determined to be mentally fit for trial. His initial trial concerned the murders of Kendrick and Chaffin, resulting in a guilty verdict on May 12, 1988. He was subsequently sentenced to death. In a sworn statement, Simmons affirmed his wish for no appeals or changes to his sentence, expressing, "I, Ronald G. Simmons Sr., want it to be known that it is my wish and my desire that absolutely no action by anybody be taken to appeal or in any way alter this sentence. It is further respectfully requested that this sentence be carried out without delay." Simmons faced another trial for the murders of his 14 family members, which concluded on February 10, 1989, with another death sentence by lethal injection. A family friend provided insight into a potential motive, indicating that Simmons's wife had been accumulating funds to seek a divorce from him when the killings occurred. During the trial, Simmons had to be forcibly removed from the courtroom for assaulting the prosecutor, John Bynum, and attempting to seize a deputy's firearm. This incident occurred when Bynum introduced a letter exchanged between Simmons and his daughter Sheila, in which Simmons expressed anger over Sheila revealing his paternity of her child and his threat to see her in hell. Simmons adamantly refused to appeal his death sentence, stating, "To those who oppose the death penalty, in my particular case, anything short of death would be cruel and unusual punishment." A hearing was conducted by the trial court to assess Simmons's competence to waive further legal proceedings, and it was determined that his decision was made knowingly and intelligently. Simmons became the focus of the United States Supreme Court case Whitmore v. Arkansas, when another death row inmate, Jonas Whitmore, unsuccessfully attempted to compel an appeal of Simmons's case. During his time on death row, Simmons had to be isolated from fellow inmates due to persistent threats to his life. This situation arose because he steadfastly refused to appeal his own death sentence, a stance that other prisoners believed was detrimental to their own efforts to challenge their impending executions. On May 31, 1990, then Arkansas governor, who would later become President Bill Clinton, signed the execution warrant for Simmons. On June 25th, Simmons passed away as he had chosen, through the method of lethal injection, at the Cummins unit. None of his surviving relatives came forward to claim his body, and he was buried in an unmarked grave in a burial ground reserved for the indigent in Lincoln County, Arkansas. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.